Welcome to the third part of our Elan tutorial, in which we will learn how to add segments and how to transcribe the audio file within these segments. It is important to know that there are two ways of how you can add your segments. You can add them manually, or you can add them automatically. We will start by showing you how to add them manually. When you click on Options, you can switch between the modes in which your data or your project is presented. So right now, for example, we're in the annotation mode, in which most options are available. Later on, you will also learn how to use the transcription mode, which is very useful for transcribing your data. But right now, we want to learn how to use the segmentation mode, in which you can add segments and also change segments that you've added before. So you click on segmentation mode, and now your interface will look like this. First, make sure that you have selected 2 keystrokes per annotation in this box above. Then select the tier in which you want to add your segment by double-clicking on them. In segmentation mode, we only see these 3 tiers: the interlinear title tier, the transcription tier for speaker A, and the transcription tier for speaker B. This is because these are our parent tiers. You will then add your segmentation limits by only pressing Enter while your media file is playing. To play your media file, you can click on this button
اسمعني انت ايش مبيعش الكهرباء إباف؟
or press Ctrl and Space. And the same if you want to stop the file playing. To start adding your segments from the beginning, you go to the beginning of the media file. You can do this by pressing this button or pressing Ctrl and B. You will now play the file and at the same time always press Enter when you want to start a segmentation unit and Enter again where this segmentation unit shall end. As we have now double-clicked on the tier for speaker A, we will only add segments for speaker A. Speaker A we have defined here as the woman with the black hair who is speaking first. So we now want to add segments only to her utterances.
سامحني ما نحبش نقلقك. تعديت باش نسألك ها.
لا هو ما فما حتى قلق. أما البروسيدور هي اللي طويلة شوية. خاطر الشيك يتعدى من سيرفيس كونتابيليتي، صح عليه الشيف دو سيرفيس، بعد تعدى السيرفيس فينانسيي، بعد صح عليه البي دي جي، شيك هذا يا مدام راه. توت فاصون هم مادام ما كلموكش مادام الشيك مازال ما حضرش راهو.
ماهيش تقلق فيك؟
شنو؟
هذيك اللي عندك هوني ماهيش تقلق فيك؟
لا بلوطة.
You can also add annotations in the annotation mode. We will try this now for the title we want to enter in the interlinear title tier. For that, first we double-click on the interlinear title tier. You then mark a certain passage at the beginning of the file, and it will appear in blue. Then you can either go to Annotation, add new annotation here, or you right-click into the segment in the interlinear title tier, and also go to Add new annotation here. You then enter the title of our project, which is Selma, and press Enter. Also never forget to save your Elan file every once in a while. You can do this going to File, Save, or pressing Ctrl S. You can also see here that Elan usually creates an automatic backup every now and then. You can define here how often it should create an automatic backup. So now if we want to check whether the annotation units that we have created while the media file was playing are correct, we go back to segmentation mode. By clicking on the beginning of an annotation unit and marking it as you see here in blue, and then pressing this button above, or Shift and Space, you can play only the segment selected. This way you can see how well your segment aligns with the utterance.
سامحني ما نحبش
In case it doesn't align well in the beginning or the end, you can easily move the segmentation limits by dragging the end of the segmentation to the left or to the right.
سامحني ما نحبش نقلقك. سامحني ما نحبش نقلقك.
You would modify the annotation until you have the feeling that nothing is cut off the utterance.
تعديت باش نسألك ها. تعديت باش نسألك ها.
When you're done modifying the annotations you have made for speaker A, you can go to adding the annotation groups for speaker B. You double-click on the tier B transcription, and then you go along adding your segmentation units as before by playing the audio file and at the same time pressing Enter wherever you want to start your annotation and pressing Enter again when you want to end it.
سامحني ما نحبش نقلقك. تعديت باش نسألك ها.
ايوا ما فما حتى قلق. اما البروسيدور هي اللي طويله شويه. خاطر الشيك يتعدى من سيرفيس كونتابيليتي، صحة للشيف دو سيرفيس، بعد تعدى سيرفيس فينانسيي، بعد صحة لي بي دي جي، شيك يا مدام راهو. توت فاصون هم مادام ما كلموكش مادام الشيك مازال ما حضرش راهو.
I would suggest you to also go through all the annotations you added for speaker B to be sure they are fine before you start transcribing. Now we get to the final step before we can add our transcriptions. We are in annotation mode and we want to copy the established segments from our transcription tiers to all other dependent tiers. For that we go to Tier, create annotations on dependent tiers. We mark both the A transcription tier and the B transcription tier, since for both speakers we want to create annotations on all dependent tiers. You click on Next, and here you can check all tiers, since as we want annotations on all dependent tiers. It will automatically choose to have empty annotation, which is what we want. Go to Finish, and now you'll see that on all dependent tiers we have created annotation units in which we can now add our transcriptions. Now we can really start transcribing what is said in the video. As shown before for the title tier, we can either do this in the annotation mode by clicking merely on the annotation in which we want to add a transcription, Or, which is even more comfortable, we go to the transcription mode. Here, first of all, you choose a font size. As for the number of columns we want to be shown, for now we want to click on 2. Now we still have to select a tier type for our 2 columns. We will select phrases, so our transcription tier will be shown, and we will select note. Select tiers, enlarge the window a bit, so you can read the tiers you want to be shown better. And you select for the phrases column the transcription tier, and for the note column we will select the English translation tier. With 1 line for speaker A and 1 line for speaker B. We want both to be shown. Then go to Apply and Apply. So now the segments of the tiers that you've just selected will be presented in this way. By clicking on one box, which represents one segment, you can add your transcription in this segment. When you click on it, the part of your audio file which is associated with the segment will be played.
سامحني ما نحبش نقلقك.
So now we will start adding the transcription first in the transcription tier. I will switch my keyboard to the IPA keyboard I have installed on my computer. And I write what the woman is saying in the first annotation unit of the transcription column. To make sure my transcription of her utterance is correct, I can replay the sequence.
سامحني ما نحبش نقلقك.
I will now go to the first annotation in the English translation column.
سامحني ما نحبش نقلقك.
And write down the translation of the unit I've just transcribed. Here you can also modify the volume of the audio and the speed rate. Let's now go back to annotation mode and see how the transcribed units look like. Let's now also add a transcription written in Arabic. For that, we have our Arabic translation tier. For that, we go back to transcription mode and click on Configure and add 1 column so that we would have 3. The 3rd column should be associated also with the tier type Note. Now we again have the transcription tier. We select the English translation tier, both for speaker A and B, and we also select the Arabic translation tiers. And now we can add our Arabic transcriptions.
سامحني ما نحبش نقلقك.
On adding the transcriptions of all annotations and also the translations for both speaker A and B.
هو ما فما حتى خلق.
In annotation mode, it should now look like this. Having added all your translations and transcriptions will look more or less like this. You can also change the font size in the annotation mode by right-clicking in any annotation and changing the font size. In case you realize while adding your transcriptions that some limits of the annotations were a bit off the actual media file, you can go directly from transcription mode to the segmentation mode and modify the annotation units you were not satisfied with.
تعديت باش نسألك ها.
هو ما فما حتى خلق، أما البروسيدور هي اللي طويلة شوية.
تعديت باش نسألك ها.
هو ما فما حتى خلق.
So now we need to take care of two more tiers, which are the words tier and the participant node tier, both of which we will need later on for Flex. The content of these two tiers will be created automatically. The words tier, which we will start with, will split up word by word the transcription units we've added in the transcription tier. For that, we go to tier, tokenized tier. As the source tier, we choose the transcription tier, since we want to tokenize or split up the transcriptions written in the transcription tier. As the destination tier, we choose the words tier. You can now see how the transcription is splitted up word by word in the words tier. To see the whole word better, you can zoom in. Repeat the same thing for speaker B, splitting up the transcriptions of speaker B into the words tier of speaker B. Now, finally, we come to the participant node tier. All annotations of this tier we will have to label with the letter of the speaker, meaning that all participant node tiers of speaker A will have to have an A in their annotations. Luckily, we don't have to do this manually. We go to tier and label and number annotations. We choose the A participant node tier and write a capital letter A in include label part. We do not want to insert a delimiter, and we do not want to include a number part. Then go on OK. You will now see that in all annotations of the tier participant node for speaker A, we will find a capital letter A. Again, we will repeat the same procedure for speaker B. And with that, we are finished adding all our transcriptions and translations and are ready to work with our data and transfer it to Flex. This means we have reached the end of the third part of our tutorial. You will now have 20 minutes to transcribe and translate the first minute of the video in your Elan project.